I'm drowning in my history, prisoner of past defeats. Tell me what the future holds. Tell me, baby. Terrified of things to come. Paralyzed, I cannot.
Hey, Mikey!
Luke, is that you, bro?
This way, Mikey.
Luke!
Come on, Slowpoke. Help me, Mikey.
Luke!
You gotta help me, Mikey. They're gonna hurt me.
It's okay, Luke. I'm here now. Stay there. I'm coming to get you.
I'm real scared, Mikey. You gotta help me. Please.
Luke! Come back! Luke!
There's a darkness coming.
Stay your hand, Jack, and listen to what I have to say.
How did you find this place? Who are you?
My name is Legion, for we are many. The immortal power that you seek does exist. It does indeed lie within the soul, but only within certain ones, certain dark souls.
My God!
What's the problem, Magneta?
I had a dream, Shadowman. A real bad dream. A dead sight dream.
Woo! It's an end of the world sock hop, the apocalypse prom, and Marco, you're on the justice, Mikey, and little Lukey's coming too. He's got the best seat in the house with a split lip neath that big old engine, and he's screaming for his mommy, but mommy's gone down dead sideway.
Hiya, Mikey. Glad you could make it. I've been waiting for you. I've been scared. Scared they were gonna catch me. That you weren't gonna come get me.
Here, Luke. You should have known I'd always be there for you, bro.
I'm real scared, Mikey.
Jesus, Luke. He's alive. Alive and in pain. I gotta help him.
He's dead, Mike. You know that.
I know, but I saw.
There were bad things in the dark. Badder than the boogeyman. They did stuff to me. Stuff I don't want to think about.
This is the end, beautiful friend, for we are many.
You are an architect by trade, are you not?
I am?
Then I would have you build a cathedral to pain. A place where you and I and others like us may join together. A place of asylum for all of the unique and misunderstood individuals that will follow you as the time of Armageddon approaches.
And into asylum, like a great black engine roaring to eternity, ravaging the already benighted landscape with its savage, malevolent presence.
Then, if I am to join you, I must die.
It is prophecy. We cannot fail, for we are many.
The power of the ancients is all but gone now, and the dark souls that evil desires lie unprotected. What you gotta do, Shadowman, is to go deadside and recover the dark souls. Take them into your own protection before evil gathers them to its terrible heart.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If I don't recover these dark souls, then the world's gonna end. Am I right?
You got it.
Shit.
Look, I gotta go. I've got a lot to do. Take Deacon's file and meet me at dawn at the church on the hill. I've kept your stuff safe for you.
I am the Lord of Deadside, walker between the worlds, immortal voodoo warrior. As a god, I stamp upon the writhing face of the Deadside serpent, weapon in my hand, the arcing death blow, the horror, I embrace it. I found out how the Five reach this world, but when I cross over from the asylum, it's always daytime live side, and I'm going to need my powers as Shadowman to truly kick their asses.
Don't you get uppity with me. You trespassing on my property, I can call you anything I choose, boy.
I didn't see no signs, fatso. Maybe I should just hang back and wait till nightfall, which ain't easy because the Five are after my blood.
No use hanging back, Mike. The prophecy's upon us, and with every hour we're drawing closer to its terrible conclusion.
Well, if I can't use my shadow powers on the Five, we're screwed.
I have an idea. Your esteemed predecessor, Maxine St. James, once spoke to me of L'Eclipser, the bringer of night, an ancient blade said to release the shadow into the world of men. This blade's hidden deep within the heart of Deadside. You better find it and bring it back here to me. Bringer of night, l'Eclipse, release the shadow into the world of men. Le soleil, brother sun, la lune, sister moon, the lamb, the power that binds.
Hey, you wanna hear a joke, Mikey?
Sure.
Once upon a time, there was a murderer and his victim walking hand in hand towards some deep, dark woods.
Now you're mixing metaphors.
So move out of my way, puppy dog. I won't ask you again.
I will not move out of your way. I will not. Do you know who I am?
For we are many.
For we are many.
For we are many.
For we are many.
The victim squeezes the murderer's hand real tight. He says, looking up pleadingly with big brown eyes, "I'm real scared, mister, of the deep, dark woods."
Luke, what the hell?
He sighs and he says, "You're scared? How the hell do you think I feel?
I'm gonna be walking back
to
through them on my own. Amen to that.
In 1999, Acclaim Studios released the dark horror-themed game Shadowman across various popular consoles during the latter half of the year. Based off of the popular Valiant comic book series, Shadowman the video game uses some of the same characters and draws upon inspiration from the comic storylines and tone to create an adventure that is dark, unsettling, deeply disturbing, bloody and violent, but then cleverly weaves all this into a game that takes a lot of inspiration from popular franchises such as Mario, Tomb Raider, Metroid and Zelda, thrown in for good measure. Reviews at the time were divided and somewhat mixed at best, with some reviewers not rating the game very highly, thinking it was a big letdown, or it was marked average, whilst others rated it very highly and well worthy of the player's time and attention. There was little doubt though that no matter what the opinion, people were drawn into Shadowman's dark unsettling gameplay, its disturbing cutscenes with some of the best voice acting ever, and also the fact that Shadowman used one of the best game engines out at the time, called Vista, which not only gave the graphics a smooth detailed look, but eliminated much of the draw distance and fogging which plagued a lot of 3D games. This meant that you could see locations far off into the distance and you were able to eventually reach them. Still, despite the polarising opinion on Shadowman when it was released, its popularity has increased 21 years later as people really seem to gush over it. And this was years after its debut on many consoles. True, a lot of people believe that it was a title that didn't just try and replicate what had been done before, but that it dared to be different, offering a deeper, more immersive gameplay experience that would not only hook players into Shadowman's world, but would also make them want to keep coming back. Shadowman at the time was compared to the Legend of Zelda Orcarina of time, and I do remember an article that praised the game, calling it Zelda's evil twin, with the development team talking about how thrilled they were to have a game that was just as good and also innovative as Zelda. Shadowman was developed by Acclaim's T-side team in Middlesbrough in the United Kingdom. The story goes that the higher-ups sent over a bunch of comic books to T-side and asked the team to pick one and make a game out of it. After leafing through several of them, they found one called Shadowman and quickly realised that there was more than enough substance to make a game out of it. Its story and characters were interesting enough, very dark and disturbing, and it was clear that a game based off of the comic would not only stand out, but that the team could really incorporate some of their own ideas in there too, and try and create something unique that hadn't quite been done before. I will be doing a detailed review of Shadowman, mainly because the game is extremely long, and there's so many tasks to do. I did toy with the idea of just doing a short review, but felt that I would be doing this game a real disservice. I mean, just from playing a few hours, I can tell you that the developers have packed in an incredible amount of effort. There are many locations, each with unlockable paths as Shadowman increases in power. I do feel like I need to talk about this game at great length and discuss what the game's objectives are, and also try and help you, the viewer, try and make sense of Shadowman and his world if you've played it before but don't quite understand what is going on and may have given up on it. So there will be spoilers as well as detailing my own experiences and history with the game. Also, I want to try and understand why some people don't like it, and we'll be discussing that towards the latter half of my analysis. This may well be my largest review yet, and so for convenience I will be splitting it up into manageable parts as not to overwhelm you or anyone else watching it. So grab yourself a nice hot beverage, a snack, and buckle up because we are diving straight in.
I hate this shit. Just a pawn in Nettie's master plan. She moves me in mysterious ways, and brother, sometimes she really does move me. Can't do nothing about it since, nice as you please, she knitted my ribs into the mask of shadows. I got nothing left anyways. It's my fault Luke's dead, and Mom and Pop too. I deserve everything I get, every bad thing that comes my way. Can't live, can't die. Deadside's the perfect hood for me. A nowhere place. The asshole of the universe.
Shadowman is a 3D platform game that again fuses elements of the Legend of Zelda, Metroid and Tomb Raider in its gameplay. The hero of the game is of course the Shadowman, an undead voodoo warrior who possesses great power and is able to travel to and from the land of living, known as Liveside, and the land of the dead, Deadside. Shadowman's power comes from the Mask of Shadows that is normally worn on one's face, meaning that it can be put on or taken off at will. Unfortunately for Shadowman, he has the mask permanently placed into his chest by a voodoo priestess called Mama Nettie, and because of this, she has constant power over him.
Glad you could make it.
How could I refuse your offer? How could I ever refuse you, Agneta?
You can't. I'm simply irresistible.
Shadowman's real name is Michael Leroy. After dropping out of college, having majored in English literature, Michael had a job as a cab driver, and after one of his passengers was killed, he found that there was 20 grand in a briefcase in the back of his cab. Not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, Michael took the money for himself and went back to Louisiana, where he spent the wealth on his family. Unfortunately for him, the crime syndicate who owned the money tracked Michael and his family down and killed Michael's parents and his little brother Luke. Thanks to protection that Michael had sought from the voodoo priest, his life was somehow spared. However, after waking up from a coma, Michael had very little recollection of who he was or the events of his past, and the Boker would use his power over Michael to make him a hitman for hire. This all changed when one fateful night, Mama Nettie, another practitioner of voodoo, hurried into the Wild at Heart bar owned by the Boker. Minutes from death, she quickly saw Mike and planted the mask into his chest, which not only changed his life but also saved her own. Nettie, it seems, needs a conduit to conduct and transfer the infinite powers of the Mask of Shadows into her to keep her youthful appearance, and as seen in the intro, it is implied as to how this occurs. So now every night Michael transforms into the mighty Shadowman and Nettie commands and controls him, with poor Michael unable to refuse Nettie. Whilst this may seem a little cruel, it is wholly necessary as many men have worn the mask and become Shadowman in the past. Michael, as the current Shadowman and walker between the worlds, must use his great powers to help eliminate any threats occurring from Deadside into Liveside and vice versa. Okay, although Shadowman is set in 1999, the game's story actually begins in 1888, where we see the serial killer Jack the Ripper analyse his murderous deeds and musings over the lives he took so cruelly in an effort to find a certain power within the soul that he believes exists.
The 9th of November, 1888. By my deeds am I known, and I am known as Jack. Spring-heeled Jack. Jack the Ripper. By my deeds am I known, and they are truly bloody. I took them all to my heart. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Kelly, and loved them truly love them all. But the immortal power I sought within the sordid confines of their bodies, the still beating organ of the soul, was not to be found. The ritual of the knife was to no avail. I am bereft, and must therefore perform that bloody ritual upon myself.
Stay your hand, Jack, and listen to what I have to say.
How did you find this place? Who are you?
My name is Legion, for we are men.
After discovering that his curiosity has not been satisfied at not finding anything at all, he begins to turn the blade on himself in an effort to end his own life. Just as he is about to do so, an imposing, sinister figure calling himself Legion appears in front of Jack. Legion tells him that the power he is after does exist as he had thought, but it only resides in certain souls. To that end, Legion offers Jack the opportunity to witness this power firsthand by asking him to accompany him to Deadside, where he will build a great cathedral of pain, an asylum where the evil souls will all come together and eventually will be able to cross over the threshold into Liveside and bring about the end of all things. Jack quickly realises that in order to join Legion he must end his life, and so he does so without hesitation. Now 100 years later in Deadside, Jack's cathedral and massive asylum are built, and with the help of 4 other serial killers whom Legion has selected, Legion now plans to use the power of these dark souls which are scattered all over Deadside to cross over to Liveside and create an unholy apocalypse. One night, whilst Shadowman and Nettie are sleeping, Nettie has a Deadside dream, warning her that Liveside is in danger and that a group of serial killers known as the Five possess incredible dark evil powers and are working to help Legion cross over with an invincible undead army and end the world.
The end is sooner than you
I'm drowning in my history, prisoner of past defeats. Tell me what the future holds. Tell me, baby. Terrified of things to come. As I can.
A Deadside dream. The 5 are here, the heralds of the apocalypse.
Shaken by what she saw, she quickly orders Shadowman to travel to Deadside and gather dark souls in order to develop an even greater power to be able to stop the Five. Nettie, despite having great power as a voodoo priestess, cannot cross over the veil to Deadside, and Shadowman is the only one who can do anything to stop this terrifying new threat. This is all thanks to a sentimental item owned by his dead brother Luke, a teddy bear. Michael focuses all of his emotions onto it, and this allows him to cross back and forth between Liveside and Deadside.
Michael, back so soon? Getting a bit too spooky for you, huh? Scaring the bejesus out of you, huh?
Jaunty, much as it pains me to admit it, I need your advice.
Is that right? Well, fire it away. Not literally, mind you.
Nettie sent me to look for these Govi that supposedly contain the Dark Souls. Well, I've not even come close to one.
Ah, poor you. Let me put it this.
Nettie also saved an Irishman called Jaunty who was killed by a cult who were performing a bunch of satanic rituals. Nettie offered Jaunty the chance to be her eyes and ears to guard the gates of Deadside, and like Michael, he can cross over from Liveside and Deadside as Nettie gave him a new body, that of a dwarf in Liveside, and in Deadside he appears as a giant top hat wearing skinless bony serpent. However, he's always surprisingly upbeat and jovial, and the banter between him and Shadowman is hilarious. Jaunty, however, as Nettie said, is pretty much useless in both worlds, and so Shadowman is the only hope to stop this impending doom.
Just since I last set me eyes on your happy smiling mug.
The feeling's mutual.
I suppose you've been away dallying with the old battle axe, giving her one with some of that righteous voodoo so she can stay forever young?
Something like that.
She's been filling your head with her fated pillow talk again, I'll bet. Doomsday in an army giddy until you're drunk with the stuff.
She did happen to mention a certain prophetic dream she's been having.
Did she now? Well, for once I think the owl witch might be right.
Starting out. As soon as the game begins, we are introduced to the protagonist Michael Lara, who, as I mentioned, when nighttime rolls around, turns into the voodoo warrior Shadowman. In the daytime he is fully human and must rely on his own mortal abilities to navigate his way through the hills and caves to visit Mama Nettie, the voodoo priestess, who lives in a church up the hill. The game is very much a third-person platform game with Michael moving around with the camera also moving with him. I actually really like how he controls on PC, and players have the choice of using the analog sticks or the D-pads if using a dual control pad. You move your character as you typically would in each direction. Pressing tab also brings up the inventory screen, and it is here where you can see what items and weapons he currently has. And the more weapons that are acquired means that Michael or Shadowman will be able to assign one weapon to each hand each, meaning he can dole out double the amount of damage. Also, you are informed how many Dark Souls are in each location, and each time one is collected it's added to the total. And not only does Shadowman become more powerful, but you always know how many are left to find. So, don't worry if all this talk of Dark Souls is confusing. I will explain more about what the Dark Souls are and their significance a little bit later on. For now, I just want to try and give you a brief overview of the game's mechanics and collectibles. Shadowman can also jump across platforms, do a running jump, and he can also jump and grab some ledges and shimmy across, just like Lady Croft. He can fire his weapons and can even lock onto enemies like Link can in The Legend of Zelda, and although this mechanic isn't as reliable as in Ocarina of Time, Michael's normal aiming and firing is pretty good. I mean, most of the time I was able to hit enemies quite far away in the distance despite missing a few times. Generally, however, I would always hit my mark. People complain that sometimes enemies will break the Z targeting lock that Shadowman uses on them to try and hit them, the argument being that it ruins the game because they can't hit the enemies all the time. I would say that Acclaim were just trying to be realistic. For me, I enjoy this aspect of the game as it made fights more tense and challenging and made me work just that little bit harder to try and fight my way through the game. Also, always being able to lock on straight away and defeat enemies would really be a bit too easy. Also, as new powers are earned, Shadowman can use these abilities with just the directional buttons anyway, which is really convenient. In addition to collecting Dark Souls, you will also need to collect weird little pots called cadeaux, which in England translates as gifts. With every 100 Shadowman collects, and provided he has found the Temple of Life, Shadowman can then offer them to the god Lower, who gives him an increased health bar, making him a bit tougher to take down. So essentially, although Michael Lara and Shadowman are indeed the same person, both play and use weapons differently. Michael in daytime cannot use his shadow powers, and so must rely on real world weapons to take down baddies. Shadowman, however, is a supernatural entity and will be able to earn new abilities as progress is made through the game. He wields a shadow gun with infinite power, which is used to destroy enemies to take their souls, which are used to refill his own. Michael, on the other hand, for most of the game has to find medikits and ammo scattered around for his traditional weapons. He cannot, however, use any of Shadowman's fantastical abilities in Liveside during the day, and if Michael dies, he's warped to Deadside, and if Shadowman dies, he starts from the last checkpoint he was on. So I thought it was a nice attention to detail that Acclaim put in there. Both Michael and Shadowman have infinite lives, and enemies and even some bosses will retain the amount of damage you did to them before you died, so the pattern of enemies you are fighting will go down a lot easier when you respawn and fight them again. This, in my view, was a very sensible decision, as admittedly in the beginning old Shad is as weak as a kitten, and you will find yourself running away constantly. Again, I'm going to be making that comparison to Zelda. I'm going to be doing this a lot during this review. It's a lot like Link when you start the game, and as you progress, Link gains more health, spells and weapons until he becomes a true force to be reckoned with. It's essentially the same deal with Shadowman. The stronger he becomes, the further he can progress, and it becomes a breeze then to take down enemies who in the beginning were constantly annoying and killing him off. Finally, there is Luke's teddy bear, which allows Michael or Shadowman to travel to both Liveside and Deadside. The key differences are that when Michael travels to Deadside, he becomes Shadowman and is able to use his powers and abilities. When Shadowman travels to Liveside, he becomes Michael Lara and again can't yet use his shadow powers, and so must use more traditional methods. Notice I said can't use them yet. More on that later, as I don't want to overload you too much right now. So you start off the game as Michael Lara and make your way through this first section, where the goal is to get to Mama Nettie's church. Along the way you will see these weird cocoon-like objects called Govi scattered around that when Michael tries to shoot them, nothing happens. Now these objects, as well as appearing in Liveside, also appear in Deadside. Now within these objects are the Dark Souls that I've been speaking about. Now you should think of the Dark Souls as the equivalent of the stars that need to be collected in Mario 64. Some of which are in plain sight, others require a bit of puzzling, and some can only be gained by Shadowman earning their abilities. Now, I know what you're thinking right away within the first 5 minutes of playing this game. So I'm seeing these Dark Souls right away in the Govi, okay? And I'm supposed to collect them. I've tried shooting them in Liveside and nothing's happening. What's the deal? Well, remember when I said that both characters share many differences? It is only when Michael Lara has turned into Shadowman can he open the Govi and claim the Dark Souls inside. Michael has no power in live side yet, but if he can find a way to use his shadow powers in live side, he will eventually be able to get the Dark Souls. You will start to see that there are many Dark Souls that you can't get right now, and this becomes a common theme, not just in Louisiana but also in Deadside. Things, however, do eventually even themselves out, because again, although only Shadowman can indeed claim these Dark Souls, many will be out of reach until he has figured out how to get them. Usually it requires solving a puzzle, getting a new ability, or just about using your noggin. So as the player, you are pretty limited on what you can do at the beginning, and you must patiently work your way through the game until you have the necessary means to get each Dark Soul. So don't worry if for the first few hours you're leaving behind Dark Souls you can't get. Things may get a bit overwhelming as you get deeper into the game, and you may worry you're not going to be able to get them. There are new plot twists and locations and enemies being thrown at you all the time, but always remember that finding these Dark Souls should be your primary objective throughout, and that the more you collect, the stronger you will become. Once Michael makes his way to the church, he meets Mama Nettie, who gives him his stuff, most importantly his handgun, which turns into the Shadow Gun in Deadside, and his means of transport, which is Luke's teddy bear.
Nettie?
Hey there, Mike. Glad you could make it.
How could I refuse your offer? How could I ever refuse you, Agneta?
You can't. I'm simply irresistible. I hope you read the file I gave you, and read it real well. Between the lines, you'll find the signs.
You got my stuff?
Come on in, honey.
You know, on the way over here, I got to thinking about these Dark Souls. If they're so damn dangerous, why didn't the ancients just
She implores him to immediately go to Deadside to begin his quest, and to also speak to Jaunty, the gatekeeper in Deadside, and to of course start harvesting dead souls.
Nettie sent me to look for these Govi that supposedly contain the Dark Souls. Well, I've not even come close to one.
Ah, poor you. Let me put it this way. If you were trying to keep a source of immortal cosmic power from falling into the hands of the ultimate evil, would you leave that source of immortal cosmic power just lying around the place for the world and his wife to stumble across?
I guess not.
Well then, you're going to have to look a little harder, aren't you?
I guess so.
And Michael?
Yes?
I wouldn't worry your pretty little bald head about it too much. I mean, it's only the end of the world.
After some funny dialogue between Jaunty and Shadowman, Jaunty opens the gate and Shadowman makes his way further into Deadside. Now this is where the game really begins, as there are tons of enemies, mostly tortured souls who fire projectiles and can really wipe you out before you've begun. This was a common complaint many reviewers spoke of, and I can see how it can be annoying. This can be a pain, and yes, but you have to remember you need to try and hunt down those Dark Souls and Kadao to get stronger. Again, it's that Zelda ideology. So you'll be wandering through the Marrow Gates, doing your best to avoid the various evil demonic creatures trying to figure everything out. Again, Shadowman functions as this 3D platform puzzle game and introduces the Zelda and Metroid-esque gameplay in it, with certain ledges and doors the undead voodoo warrior just can't reach right now. Also, all over the various locations are Tomb Raider style puzzles, and whilst they're not head scratchingly hard right away, you may find yourself running around in circles, so sometimes the solution is just so easy, it's difficult. More often than not, the switch is in a passageway, or it's something you just haven't seen. You really have to look and be very observant, and often you need to find sometimes a longer path just to get to the area you will need to find. The Wasteland, which is the first proper location in Deadside itself, is absolutely huge, and I got lost many times trying to farm for souls. The thing about Shadowman again is that it moves you forward quite often whilst you're trying to get accustomed to the location that you're on. So you should think of Shadowman's locations as Metroid's planet Zebes. You have to unlock these new areas, gain new abilities and powers so that you can return to them and unlock new paths in time. Now within Deadside you will find the Path of Shadows, which not only leads you to where you need to go, but also contains many coffin gates. Each gate is situated all over Deadside, and each one requires that Shadowman have the required level of power to open them up. As you get further through the game, the level of the gate increases, and this is why I said collecting Dark Souls is important. The more you have, the more Shadowman's power increases. If he has the required level or more, then the gate will open. If he has less, then the gate can't be accessed. And with the game throwing so much at you, you can pretty much gauge how far you are in the game due to the amount of power that each gate has. Some gates are even in the same area and will have different levels. Some require a higher one, whilst some require a lower one. However, these are all essential and must be opened in order to get new weapons and essential items to further the plot, but also, again, some need to be opened to get to new areas to get even more Dark Souls. Obviously, once again, the more that Shadowman has, the probability of success increases even more. Within the many locations that Shadowman needs to visit are temples which need to be conquered in order to be blessed with new abilities. These temples are brimming with traps and some of the most annoying enemies in the game, the Sisters of Blood, who when awoken by Shadowman will attack him ruthlessly as he disturbs their slumber, and you will find them in every temple. Once the required puzzles have been solved, then Shadowman will gain access to a large circular mechanism which will burn a gad or tattoo onto his flesh, which indicates that he has a new power-up. While Zelda's Link has different coloured tunics to indicate his abilities, Shadowman's flesh indicates his own.
I'm drowning in my